What's up, folks? I'm Brandon. That's Chris, and we're
What's
the
up?
Disco Yeti Unplugged.
What's going on, everybody?
We are excited that you joined us today. We've come up with a pretty cool concept for today's podcast. It's our top 5 Disney ride vehicles that we really like. Okay, so please join us as we work through these vehicles, and we're going to be showing those on screen and everything. I think you guys are going to really like this one. Please like, comment, subscribe to our podcast. You're really going to love it, and we're glad you're here. So we'll see you in a second. Folks, thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight's podcast is our top 5 Disney ride vehicles. And we came up with this one. We thought this one was kind of a neat concept for a show because it's not too often that people really look at the ride vehicle when they're getting on it. You know, I mean, and that's a part of the entire ride experience.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, when you're getting on the ride, I know you're shuffling with your family, you're doing this and that, trying to get on the ride, trying to get that, you know, buckle in, get that yellow tab, you know, shake that little yellow tab for the cast member, all that good stuff. But here we are. We got that ride vehicle that is unique with every ride. And so Chris has got his 5. I've got my 5. And we're going to just kind of go through those in no particular order to ourselves. And we're going to try to show those on screen while we're doing it. So anyway, I think you're really going to enjoy this one. This one's kind of fun. So we're going to let Chris kick it off with his first one.
Okay, so I got my top 5 again. We're not going to go in any particular order. These aren't ranked or anything like that.
That's right.
We're just going to go down the list of my 5. So I'm going to start with my absolute favorite theme park ride in the world is the Rise of the Resistance.
Rise of the Resistance, huh?
Car, I guess you can call it. I'm not sure.
Well, let's just take a look at what it looks like, okay?
Let's take a look at that.
All right, let's see what that ride really entails. Okay.
So the thing with me is that I love the technology with this ride vehicle. First of all, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, if you haven't figured that out yet, if you haven't listened to previous shows. So I love the fact that you got the droid, you know, in the car with you in the
That's
front.
right.
You know,
he's driving.
I love that part of the ride. You know, the other thing is the ride vehicle holds 8 people, so obviously 4 and 4. Okay, the vehicle itself is very comfortable. Going back to what, you know, with your intro, a ride vehicle can make or break a ride. You know, you could have a good, decent ride, but if the vehicle is uncomfortable or doesn't respond well, or just, you know, just doesn't feel good to be in, that can affect the way you know, have the ride. So this is a very comfortable ride. I love the technology. I love how it's trackless, you know, all GPS driven through the ride.
Yep.
You know, I love the fact that it, you know, it does have that elevator drop where, you know, it locks into that elevator and drops down for you and, you know, goes into a different, I just love the technology of it, you know?
Yeah, it's super cool.
What is your thoughts on that, Brandon? I know we both love this ride.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at it again. The one thing is the droid driving, you know, his head's moving the entire time. That's pretty cool. It's basically a trackless ride. Mm-hmm. I think that's the cool part about it, is that the thing is always rotating to its own kind of points.
Yeah,
within
and it's
the show.
Yeah, it's always turning you towards the action. You know
right.
what I mean? It's all GPS driven, like I said earlier.
Right.
It's just a great vehicle. It's a great ride. all together. You know, I love being in that thing. That's such a cool
Yeah, and
vehicle.
it's got like a space concept look to it. You know, it kind of looks like a little ship, you
Yep.
know, a little escape pod per se.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's man, the I think the colors are cool. I think, you know, the whole dang thing's pretty neat. It's a great vehicle concept for you know, for Star Wars for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I think
100%.
that in my opinion, that's my favorite theme park ride anywhere. Now I haven't been to the newer Universal Park and things like that, but you know, as far as Disney goes and the old Universal and Islands of Adventure, to me, Rise of the Resistance is hands down the winner.
Oh yeah, hands down, it's one of the best rides in any theme park around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, all the critics say that. You know, it's one of the best. I would say it's probably top 5 in all of in the entire world. But you know, for me, that's not my number one. But you know, hey, it ranks for sure for me.
Yep.
My first one, and I'm going to show it, is the Rock and Roller Coaster Limo. Okay,
Yep.
and
Love that.
I love the look of this vehicle, and I think, you know, it's getting ready to get a makeover. It's going to have a Muppets makeover, of course. So I think that the new vehicle look to it is they're going to be repainted, things like that. It's going to be basically the same ride vehicle.
Have they released any of the pictures of the new painting, like what the
No,
car's going to look like? Have they released any of
they
that?
have
'Cause I
not.
haven't
They've
seen
left
any.
that up for surprise,
Okay.
which I think is really cool. You know, you know, it's got this underlying surprise element to the entire show, right?
I have a question. The car that used to hang at the entrance, it was upside down, right?
Right.
Did that match this? Did that look like this
It
light blue?
it did somewhat match.
Okay,
Okay.
so do you think the new ride vehicles are going to match the new painted car up front?
It could. I
You
mean,
know?
it could, or they could go with a solid color, you
Yeah.
know. I think maybe it's going to have a neon element to it,
Yeah,
like a neon
I don't
glow
think it's going to be a solid color though. I really think they're going to kind of go a little bit more with the funky, with the
with that funky.
electric mayhem, with the
Mm-hmm.
colorful, like the
Yep.
rainbows and the multicolors and things like that.
Yep.
So
So
that's my
this, go ahead. Yeah.
no, I say that's my feeling on it.
Yeah. So this one was, and you're going to kind of catch a theme here throughout this podcast. This one was done by Vekoma, which is a Dutch company. This whole ride was, but then it was the Imagineer was Tom Morris that came up with the concept for this. But Vekoma, they have made many Disney attractions. They're pretty dang good at it, you know. And I think each train is like 24 riders per train. It also goes up to 57 miles an hour in 2.8 seconds, which is pretty fast launch, you know, for a for a indoor roller coaster. It's got the linear induction motor, which means that it has a magnetic push to it, which is pretty neat. But the limo body, I think, is just a cool look, you know, and it totally goes with the theme. You know, it totally goes with the whole concept of going to a show or whatever, you know. Whatever Electric Mayhem's going to have cooked up, you know, but it's going to be really neat to see what the new paint job is for that. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it. And I think that we're going to really all be surprised here in a couple of weeks as to what that roller coaster is going to look like from here on out.
I'm excited to see the YouTube videos. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get down there, but yeah, I'm really excited to see what it turns out to be. What it looks like.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
What do you got next?
All right, so my next one is the Tower of Terror elevator.
Okay.
This is kind
Tower
of
of
on the same.
Terror
This is kind
elevator.
of on the same idea as the Rise of the Resistance. Obviously, it's a lot older a technology, but the thing with the Tower of Terror, this is another one where it not only does it obviously it's the elevator, right? So it goes up and down, but it comes forward, it spins, it goes around. Um, you know, when it lights you up into the room when you go forward before the drops sequence
Mm-hmm.
starts. Um, the thing goes, obviously it's on that pulley system, so it's not a free fall. A lot of people think it's a free fall, but it's not. It's actually pulling you. It's all part of the vehicle. And then,
It's a
you know,
yo-yo effect.
it's a yo-yo,
Yep.
exactly. And then after, it pulls you backwards and then it spins you around. So again, another great technology. This has been around since the beginning of um, MGM Studios back then, now Hollywood Studios. Again, another one of my favorite rides because of the ride sequence, because of the vehicle. It makes you feel like you're falling out of your seat and with the fall, and then going through the inside floors of getting with the Twilight Zone and passing
Right.
all the stuff from the TV show and things like that. So I love this ride vehicle. It's such a cool thing. Me personally, I hate free falls, but because of the ride sequence on this, I go on it every time, at least a couple of times a trip. So,
Yeah.
absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah. The one thing you know, the thing I think is cool about this one is you're locked in there with some folks,
Yep.
and you got folks that have never rode this thing ever before, and they're freaking out. As soon as that thing drops the first time, man, they're freaking out. The whole time I ride it, I just laugh through the whole thing. I just think it's so fun, so funny, that like it's funny to see the other people's reactions. That's the part for me that really is the fun part. I remember one time I got on there and this lady was like, what do I do with my bag? And I said, just strap it. I said, loop it through your leg.
Yep.
I said, so it doesn't hit the ceiling. And she goes, what do you mean by hit the ceiling? And I go, it could hit the ceiling, the cage, the free fall. And she didn't know what to think. And as soon as it dropped the first time, her bag went out in front of her like this, and she goes, "Oh my god!"
I was going to ask her if she listened to you or not.
She didn't listen
So
to me.
obviously
She went, "Oh my god!" It was pretty funny. So, got a good laugh out of that, for sure. But yeah. So, that's a good ride. It's fun. It's awesome.
Oh yeah, I love that one. All right, what do you got for your number 2?
All right, my number 2 is Test Track. Okay, and Test Track. If anybody knows about Test Track, this thing is a cool ride. It's on its third iteration of the ride. That this one was made by Dynamic Attractions. Dan Brockwell worked with GM on this latest concept. Okay, because they wanted it to be concept look of the car, of course, but they wanted it to have a modern feel. Because the last update was in 2012. Okay, which is well over what? Well over 15 years ago.
That was when the last time they updated the vehicles.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they did come up with some new, some really cool looks to the back side of the vehicle. They some new tires, new skin, things like that. It they brought it to the modern age. Okay, and then the whole ride, um, the entire ride got better. They changed some of the sequences in the ride. It has a, you know, kind of that windswept convertible effect, of course. And they used a lot of new AI technologies in the new concept for the vehicles to really seem to maneuver in a different direction, different, thing. And of course, they have the oval track on the outside still. So anyway, it's really cool. It's kind of, it's kind of cool to go into the ride and see all the futuristic cars and things like that within the ride. So anyway, I think this one's a real winner in my book, because I think the car fits the ride. You know what I mean? And the whole premise behind the ride.
Oh yeah, no, completely. I mean, I always like to think that the first version was the best one ever. I like it even better than the newer one, just because it was a little bit more realistic. You know what I mean? Like the truck scene, it was, it looked like a real truck. And I used to like the part when you went through the cold and the hot part. With the when the ride went through those tests.
Yeah.
But the track has never changed, right? The
No.
track itself and the route and things like that. So it's always been the same. So
They've
yeah,
just surrounded it with new concepts.
right, yeah. No, I agree. That's such a cool ride because of that car.
Yeah.
Yep, I completely agree.
Okay, what you got next?
So my next one isn't necessarily a vehicle, but I guess you
Okay.
could technically call it a vehicle. Mine is the hang gliders on Soarin.
I would call it a vehicle,
Call it a
a
vehicle.
ride vehicle.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
call it a vehicle. So my whole thing is if you look at the the logistics of how this was built, it really is such a cool concept of how they were able to get that many people into an area. So it has the multi rows and it has the multi columns. So it goes 3 across, 3 up and down. And then I forget, was there 12 people going across in each row? 12 or 14?
Looks like it.
I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
10 people per
Yeah.
per
So
row.
to get all of those up, on that pulley system, it brings you all the way up. You get 3 rows going up, and then they have everybody in sequence, leaning with the ride movie. I mean, with the movie ride, going
Yep.
left, going right, going up, going down. I've always loved the technology with this. If anybody is ever in the know, you always want to get actually section B, row 1, because that brings you all the way to the top in the center, and then nothing's really distorted. So if you can ask a cast member to get in B1, you'll be happy you did. But again, I've always loved the technology on this ride because of all that.
Mm-hmm.
Such a cool way that they built this. I'm so looking forward. I wish I could get over there to see the new movie that's coming out next month.
Yeah. So for me, Soarin' is probably one of the coolest rides, I think, period, in all of Epcot. The movie sequence, the concept of hanging, flying around. Disney's got it right on this one. And I hear that with the new movie that they're going to show, the Across America, that they've fixed a lot of the issues with the angles and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they've really taken that into perspective with 360 cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's going to be a really, really neat, way that they've brought this thing up to a modern time, from its original kind of concept. So they're going to be changing it, and they're going to be bringing back some of the old cast that introduces the ride. So I think that that's going to be really neat. I just love it. The first time my daughter rode it, she cried and screamed until it got in the air. And then once it got in the air, she completely loved it. And so, and that's one of her favorite rides now. So, I'm ready, I'm ready for the new iteration for the 250th anniversary of the United States. I think that that's going to be cool. And I'm excited to see what they do with that ride.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying about, like the whole the new camera work and things like that. I know they said that, a few years ago when they were trying to, get rid, because that was the big complaint, right? At the end when you saw the Eiffel Tower, that if you weren't in the middle, it looked like it was, it was like bent.
Right.
When I was on it in January, I was on the outers. I forget, it was either A or C. But it was still pretty curved. It wasn't, like they said that it was going to be fixed. So I'm hoping that they do figure it out, because when you are on the sides, it does kind of make it look a little weird, So I hope
with
they
the
do.
reshoot, with the reshoot for the America 250
Yep.
anniversary, they're going to be, apparently they use 360 cameras that have a concave to them that allow for it to be straight.
Right.
From any angle. So whatever angle you're looking at it, it's going to be straight. So we'll see how it works out. It's going to be coming out here in about a month. And it's going to run at least through Labor Day. So I think that's going to be cool. We'll see, see if it sticks. Maybe it sticks and they bring it back every year, Memorial Day to Labor Day every summer. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I did read an article this week that they said they said depending on how people react to it, that it might be hang around for a year.
Really?
That'd be awesome. Through all of 26 into 27. So who knows? We'll see. I don't see how it's going to get, like you said, if they did, the new camera work and everything like that, I don't see how people aren't going to really rave about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's going to be well received.
Yeah, I think that they're using a lot of different America's pretty vast. And so they're using a lot of different areas of the United States that they're going to be featuring, and I think that in itself is going to be the coolest part. Right. Lots of cool aerial, lots of cool on the ground look, that kind of thing. I saw them, on Bayou swamp boats in the previews, so I think it's going to get us right into that, that vein. And, I'm pretty excited. It's going to be neat.
Yeah. It's going to be cool. All right. What do you got? What's your number 3?
All right. My number 3 is Slinky Dog Dash. And this one was made by Mack Rides over in Germany. And Kathy Mangum was the Imagineer behind the ride. And of course, it's comes out of Pixar's Toy Story. And I just think this ride vehicle is super cool. In my opinion, there's nothing like the old Slinky Dog. From front to back, as you're riding in between the springs. Okay. And I think that that's really neat. The look of the ride, of course, the coaster is a family coaster. It was designed for that. There's no doubt about that. It's a slower coaster, but it's such a fun ride vehicle to be on, and just the way it moves, the way it hangs in the air, things like that. On some of these twists and turns, I think it really makes you feel like you're riding on the back of a Slinky Dog, and so for me, Slinky Dog is a top tier, highly themed Disney attraction, and it has its place in my top 5 in that concept there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I love the whole part of this whole ride. From the design, the Tinker Toys, all of being around, the actual coaster itself, the ride vehicle just is kind of like the finishing touch. You know what I mean? And, I love how they design the track to, again, accentuate like it is a spring. You know what I mean? Like you're in the spring, with the wave, going up and down, up and down, up and down. It's such a cool concept, and the way they design that whole ride vehicle and ride track system to kind of go together. It's such a cool coaster, and then there's no wonder why it's always got a huge weight on it.
Right, of course, yeah. I mean, that thing from the time the park opens to the time it closes has at least a 60-minute wait.
Always.
Solid 60 all the time, and in the summertime you can see 90s. But you know what? People will wait in line. Kids will wait in line to ride Slinky. They may not want to wait in line to ride any other ride, but they will for Slinky for whatever reason. I don't know. My daughter's the same way. And so that's how I know this as a fact. It might be 90 freaking degrees outside and 100% humidity. And my daughter is like, let's wait in line for Slinky Dog, because, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you gotta be joking me. Right. But I love the ride. So we'll do it. We'll wait. There was a sidebar here. My daughter, when she was a little younger, there's a water coaster at another theme park, and there was an accident on the water coaster. And I was like, hey, they're going to shut down the ride for, half an hour for the people to get off and, get changed out and stuff. And I was like, do you want to get out of the line or whatever? And she's like, no. We ended up waiting in line for an hour and a half for a water park ride. Really? Because she was faithful into wanting to ride. It was like 90 freaking degrees. And my wife was like, whatever, what happened to you guys? We're like,
that's crazy.
We're still waiting in line. Yeah. So, kids are resilient when they really want to do something, Oh, yeah. So,
that's crazy.
What do you got next?
All right. Where are we? Number 4, right?
Yep.
Cruising right along. So my number 4, so I'm going to start with I don't know what the new version of this is going to look like. I'm going by the old vehicle, and I'm going to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Big Thunder, huh?
So
okay.
I know you noted, and I heard this as well, is that, we talked last week about this a little bit, how everybody was saying that the ride vehicles are slower, that they're thinking that they're slower than before. And you saw it and I saw it this week, that we're thinking that was just on the trial runs.
That's correct. Yep.
Because they did let out some photos. I think it was yesterday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure. They showed cast members were riding it. But again, this ride vehicle, going back to the way it was, I'm just going to go on the assumption that they're making it better now. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but going before, I love being on that train. It always made you feel like that thing could just run off the tracks anytime.
For real.
They always made the tracks, rickety, and you heard all kinds of things creaking and, knocking and things like that. That was the fun of it for me, is being on the train. And especially if you're in the back. I know a lot of people like to, some people request to be up front near the locomotive, but if you really want to get the full effect of that ride,
get in that back car.
The back car is the best one, because it literally feels like every turn and every bump feels like you're gonna fly out of that car.
I know, it's awesome,
and that's part of the fun of that whole ride. So
yep.
Like I said, going back to before, that was always one of my favorites. A classic ride. And like I said, I'm going on the assumption that Disney is going to make this better,
Yep. Yep.
So I'm curious again to see in a couple weeks when that thing opens up, what, everybody says it's going to happen and what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this moving forward? I know we've touched on this in the past.
Well, Big Thunder is a big hit in our family. And me and my daughter, Brielle, we really love this ride. And she, here's another ride that she'll wait an hour, to get on. And that's because it's such a fun ride. And, like I said last week on the episode, she mentioned, hey, I wish Big Thunder was open, for our trip, because, I really want to ride it. I haven't rode it for almost 2 years, And so that just tells me that it's just sparking interest, even in the small children, that, that when it comes back, it's going to be hopefully better, and, is it? We don't know. But a lot of the videos that have come across here lately kind of show it to be a slower ride. I'm not sure, but I watched an Imagineering video on it last night, and they've added a lot more bats and rats. And
Yes, I saw that.
That was the point of the video, is that we've added a lot more bats and rats.
Yeah, they added 2,000 bats.
Yeah,
to the ceiling.
Like that, yeah,
I saw that in the cavern scene.
Yeah, in the cavern sequence. Yeah. So, and then the rainbow caverns is going to be a big hit, apparently, in the new ride. So I'm excited to see what comes of it, and I hope that the reviews in the future are going to be raving, for that ride.
You know what statistic I'd be interested in seeing, and I'm not sure if there's any way they could ever do this, but the difference between them lowering that ride height from 40 to 38 inches. I'm curious to see, and like I said, I don't know if there's any way for them to do this. How many more kids they'll scoop up with that? You know what I mean? They would have to know every kid's height. You know what I mean? But how many more kids? How many more kids, like in a day or in a week and a month, are they getting on that ride compared to when it was 40 inches?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm curious to see what that did. I am really interested in seeing the reason of why they were able to lower it.
They say that that the track and the vehicle, the new vehicle, is more safe. For
that's
a
what they've
child.
said.
Yeah, they've said that. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that. Okay.
So, okay, I'm going to bring to you now that on my next one, a Disney classic. Okay. And that is the Doom Buggy. And this ride is for Haunted Mansion. Of course, it was designed by Bob Gurr. And this thing, they didn't use, back in the day when this thing was developed, they didn't use outside concept for the ride. Okay. They didn't use any kind of outside source. WED built this thing. And that was one thing I didn't realize, was that WED actually, this was their concept and their build from front to back. In the 60s, when this thing was developed, and it was a pure Bob Gurr concept from conceptualization to build. And I just think that is so neat that back then they had the technology and the know-how and the staff to come up with this thing and bust it off. I mean, that's just, to me, that's wild, and this thing's been going since 1969. Okay. At Disneyland. And then of course it came, opening day attraction at Magic Kingdom. And so, Bob Gurr's still alive. He's in his 90s. He's still around. And he's not getting any younger. I'll say that, but, his ride remains. And I just think that really speaks volumes to the old school Disney Imagineers and their concept. Every day that thing rides, in my opinion, is a tribute to the old original OG Imagineers.
I love hearing interviews with Bob Gurr, just hearing him talk about, the old days and, when he was with Walt and, all the stuff that he's been involved with. It's such a cool, what a great career he had, you know what I mean? And his mark that he has on these parks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, such a cool thing to do back in the 60s when, they have the technology to do that, my thing. So I didn't have. So Haunted Mansion is one of my favorite rides of all time. I'll start with saying this.
Yep.
I've always said that the Doom Buggies. I don't know if they're different in Disneyland. I don't remember. It's
They're
been so.
they're pretty close to the same.
It's been so long since I've been to Disneyland, but the ones in Orlando, I don't think they're the most comfortable things in the world because of the back comes right up over your back, and if you're tall at all, the back of your head is hitting the top of that shell.
I know.
You know,
it's crazy.
So it's not very comfortable. So that's the biggest reason why I didn't have that on my list. But Mansion itself is one of my favorite rides. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so cool. And like I said, the concept of that thing is just neat. You know, you're going into a haunted, you know, basically what I think is neat about it is that, you know, Walt Disney personally went over to Bob Gurr and was like, hey dude, do you think you could come up with a ride that is a haunted mansion, you know, ride? And he was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. I just think that that's so cool, you know, that he came up with that idea, that concept.
Did you see the Behind the Imagineering on Disney Plus on the
Yeah.
Haunted Mansion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool episode.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yep. I just think, I don't know, man. That's just, it's classic Disney, you know,
100%.
and the things that they knew how to do was so neat, you know, just to come up with everything. That was just so cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So my last one, well, my fifth of the top 5, is I'm going to go with Tron, just because of how unique it is. You know, the first time I rode this, you know, getting into that, you know, that motorcycle form, you know what I mean? To get into that stance on the ride. It's such a cool thing. It's so different. You know what I mean? And then, you know, against that launch sequence, I don't know. I think that's a little quicker than Rock and Roller Coaster. I'm not positive though. I don't know the exact statistics.
I think you're in about 2 seconds at 0 to 60.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so that whole thing is pretty cool. Again, the big complaint with this, I wish it was a longer ride to be on that thing, you know. But again, you know, the one that they built in Tokyo, you know what I mean? I remember watching that thing on YouTube. Couldn't wait for that thing to get finished getting built in Florida. And the first time I rode, I was blown away, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I just love the technology on that one. And like I said, the uniqueness of just being in that feeling like you're actually riding the, you know, the cycle, the light cycle.
Yeah.
You know? So
for me, you know, the ride is cool. The concept is neat. The ride's a little short, of course. Everybody says that. But the idea of the ride, the concept of the ride is top notch, I think. And the look of the ride vehicle, everything about it is super cool. The you know, when you're walking in, the whole experience of, you know, that when you get onto that vehicle, it really feels like you're a part of the team, you know, Team Blue, or, you know, and you're getting on there and you're gonna, you know, fly around basically, and it's just neat, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool
such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's cool when you're walking up the ramp and you see it, you know, above your head and
going across your head,
and you hear that noise. And it makes a certain unique noise. You know, you can always know that that's a Tron ride going by. Yeah, I love that ride. That's such a cool ride. Like I said, I just wish it was, you know, maybe another 30, 40 seconds shorter. I mean, now longer. You know, it's such
30,
a short,
40 seconds shorter.
longer. But yeah, it's such a short ride.
Yeah,
like 57 seconds or something like that.
Yep, I think you're spot on that. It's pretty short.
So, all right, so what do you got for your last one?
My last one, and of course, man, let me just say this. This ride, I think, is top tier Disney. How they came up with this concept is just blows my mind. And this ride really takes the cake, I think, with its rideability. I think anybody can get on this thing and ride it. And that is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and it's the Star Jumper. And that thing is so cool. I mean, of course, it moves. This is another Vekoma ride, okay? And Zach Ridley, he worked hand in hand with Marvel to get this concept to fruition. And this thing was built during COVID indoors, okay? And which I think is super cool because they really kind of had to work when nobody else was working on this thing in a building where they had to lay this coaster out like Legos, and they were talking about when they were putting the trains on, they had they would test them by hand. They would be pushing them through the ride by hand, on the tracks, which I think is kind of wild, But what's cool about this thing is it goes 360 degrees on a vertical axis in the middle. So it's going back, forth, all the way around. Reverse launch.
Right.
Dude, that's just cool.
And that's one of the coolest parts of this ride is the backwards launch.
And whatever the story calls for, that this ride, is pointing towards the screen, towards the concept of the ride. I think, bar none, Disney did it right when they made Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind and this Star Jumper. It's so cool. You get 4 people in a ride. And it's one of the only omni coaster systems in the world. There's not very many of these types of roller coasters in the world, even yet today. And this thing's 5 or 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are with one of the coolest rides ever. And what are your full thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I love, again, this is a ride that, like you said before, it's got rideability, it's got repeatability.
You just want to keep getting on it over and over and over.
Right. And how many times have we ridden it together? We've ridden it a bunch of times together. I know
countless.
In 3 trips that I've been at Disney with this availability, I've ridden it 11 times in 3 trips.
Yeah.
Whether it's standby, recently, we rope dropped it when we were there last time.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of lightning lanes, paid lightning lane, whatever. Right. It's got the repeatability and you can't get sick of it. The fact that you get a different song, between the 5 songs, makes it fun too. Everybody's like, oh, what song are you going to get? What song are you going to get? It's such a fun ride. It's such a great ride. The ride is comfortable. You know what I mean? The seats are very ergonomic. They're nice and comfortable for people of all kinds of sizes. I'm not too small, and this thing's great. The lap bar that comes down is really comfortable. Just the whole ride all together was built really, really well. The technology in it is unbelievable. So
yeah,
I hope in the future, I hope we get more things like that. Like the Monsters Inc. Roller coaster and stuff like that. And I hope that they have that kind of repeatability and that sort of technology to make it, rise above all the others.
Here, let me bring this to light for you. And you're gonna kind of laugh when I pop this up. When you talk about rideability and being in the seat of the ride, this one here takes the cake for uncomfortability.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
And then, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, man, this thing is rough.
Yeah.
It was built for a certain type of individual, and
I'm not it.
And I'm not it either. And I just thought I wanted to throw that up there. Another cool ride vehicle as an honorable mention here. But the problem with it is its size.
Yeah, it's so small. It is so small. I mean, your knees are just pinned together and you just can't move. You get to wedge yourself in. And if you have a backpack, forget about it.
Yeah,
It's
you're
just,
not riding.
It's just nuts, So
yeah, it's sad because it's sad because it's a great ride.
Yeah. What do you have for an honorable mention?
That was my honorable mention.
That was your honorable mention?
Yeah.
All right. So my honorable mention, I'm going to go, and again, you can call it a vehicle, you can call it not a vehicle, but I'm going with the Skyliner.
Skyliner.
That I can't stress enough how much I love the Skyliner for a bunch of reasons. First, it's a great alternative to the buses. I hate the buses. I hate riding the buses. I hate waiting for the buses.
Right.
Especially at the end of the night. It's just miserable. And if you don't have a seat, and just say I stay at Pop Century a lot, and coming from Magic Kingdom to Pop Century, that's a far ride. That's a pretty long ride. And at 11 o'clock at night, when you've been in the parks literally all day and you don't have a seat and you have to stand up, it's not very fun. So the Skyliner is great. It's comfortable. They can put 10 people in there. I've never been in there with that many. I think I've maybe been in there with 6 or 7 at the most. But for the most part, if you're riding it at an average time, you're going to get it alone, maybe with 2 other people. It's such a comfortable ride. The technology in that is great. One thing the station where you don't get out, where it makes that 90-degree turn, that's a newer technology not all places have. You know what I mean? They don't have any of those.
Yeah, like turning station.
Like they don't have those in ski resorts. I don't think, not in the US anyway.
No,
and definitely not in the Northeast where I ski. But they might have them in Europe, but I don't think they do. So I think the technology in those are with the Skyliner at Disney is great. So that's my honorable mention.
Yeah, that's I would call that a transportation, but it also is a ride in itself. Some people will go to Epcot, leave Epcot, get on that thing just to ride it. And I think that's neat. That Disney's come up with a form of transportation that warrants that fun appeal.
Right.
So anyway, so that pretty much wraps up our top 5 Disney ride vehicles.
So I'm going to throw you a curveball, just a little extra.
Okay.
So I have a little list that you can go through. So let's do this. Give me your worst ride vehicle.
The worst ride vehicle?
Yeah. What's your worst ride
Small
vehicle?
World.
Is it because of the ride or because of the vehicle itself?
It's because of the ride, not the vehicle. The boat's okay.
Right. All right. I can get that.
What's yours?
So I had a few actually, but believe it or not, one of my worst is Pirates.
Oh, okay.
For me,
I think it's kind of plain.
It's kind of plain, but I think it's very uncomfortable. Number one, it's very, very low. Okay, it's not very far off the floor. You know what I mean? So, and when you sit, you have to like almost cross your legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't just sit normally with your feet in front of you and your knees up. You can't. So you're always having to like either turn yourself or sit with your legs crossed or whatever, and you kind of fidgeting and you're turning and trying to get comfortable. As much as I love Pirates and it's one of my classic favorites, I hate that boat. You know, I wish they would change that boat.
One of the ones I think is cool that we didn't mention, and I mean, there's so many, right?
Oh yeah.
But one of the things, the Viking ship for Frozen Ever After, I think
Mhm.
that's a cool looking ride vehicle.
Yep.
Of course, Mickey and Minnie's. Those are cool vehicles. I
Yeah.
mean, but the ones I listed are my favorites.
Oh yeah. No, I mean the list can go on and on. We could be
Right.
here all night talking about those.
Yep.
You know, and then we also didn't talk about another bad one. What's the Space Mountain?
Space Mountain. That
Yeah.
thing is terrible.
That's another one
You have to sit in it sideways for sure.
You wedge yourself in there, and
It was definitely built for somebody in the 70s for sure.
Maybe in the 30s.
And not two fat boys sitting together.
No, definitely not.
I remember that time me and Chris rode it together. We were almost hugging, the entire time.
Yeah, we might have been pushing the weight limit on that baby.
Yeah, man, that thing's a terrible, terrible vehicle.
Yeah, you're just gonna make sure you may have a chiropractor appointment after you're done.
No, that's Space Mountain.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, Space Mountain. I'm sorry, I was thinking of Spaceship Earth. Stuffed in Spaceship Earth like two. Oh
yeah, that was another fun one. No, I was talking about
something.
Space Mountain. I didn't say Spaceship Earth, did I?
No,
I
you
said
said
Space
Space
Mountain.
Mountain. You did,
Okay.
yeah. I was thinking Spaceship Earth. But yeah, man, that thing's rough.
That's all I got, though.
All right, man.
Those are
Well,
mine.
if you got some of your top 5, please comment on our our YouTube page below. Let us know what your top Disney ride vehicle is. Also, like I said, please like, comment, subscribe. That's the only way we make this thing grow. And we love hearing from you. So please comment. We love the good comments. We love the bad comments. Somebody the other day were like, you guys need a license to be podcasters. Whatever, dude. We're just out here having fun. So anyway, I'm Brandon. That's Chris. And we are Disco Yeti Unplugged. Have a good night. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Good night.